Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down a seismic shift in the video game industry. For years, the whole conversation was about endless online games, right? But something just changed, and wow, did it change fast.
So, let's just dive right into this, because the data we're about to see tells a story that, honestly, caught everyone completely off guard. This wasn't just a small blip on the radar. We're talking about a total reversal of what everyone thought the future of gaming was going to be.
Okay, you have to see these numbers because this is where it gets really interesting. Just look at this. Blade Runner and BlazBlue, two games with a beginning, a middle, and an end, pulled in over 4 million new players in just their first week. They didn't just hang with Call of Duty. They totally blew it out of the water. This was a massive signal that what players want to spend their time and money on is changing big time.
Now, to really get why this happened, we've got to look at the problem that was brewing for years, kind of simmering just beneath the surface of the whole industry. And that problem is a widespread, deeply felt burnout. Players started feeling like their favorite hobby had turned into a second job. It was this constant pressure from battle passes, that nagging fear of missing out on some limited-time skin, and this feeling that you had to keep paying more just to stay competitive. It was turning fun into a stressful, repetitive chore. And this wasn't just a vocal minority complaining on the internet, not at all. A massive survey of 10,000 players who bought these new single-player games found that a staggering 79% of them, 79%, were actively looking for an escape from that endless live service grind. And for the companies that ignored these warning signs, well, the consequences were absolutely brutal. 2025 was basically a graveyard of failed live service games. You had titles like Suicide Squad losing 85% of their players because the content was just so repetitive. Others just collapsed. The message couldn't have been clear. But you have to wonder, was anybody really listening? So, with everyone feeling this burnout, how did a single-player game manage to win them all back? Well, the first part of the answer was a huge leap forward in technology that finally delivered a true next-gen experience.
So, Blade Runner 2049 was the very first game built from the ground up using something called Path Tracing. Now, this isn't just a small step up from ray tracing, which we've heard about for years. This goes way beyond, by simulating the entire journey of every single beam of light.
Right, so here's the crucial difference. Think of ray tracing as like a really clever guess at what real light does. Path tracing, on the other hand, is the full, unbelievably complex simulation. And what that means for you, the player, is that you get reflections, shadows, and an atmosphere so realistic that the game world looks almost indistinguishable from a movie.
And the developers at Night Dive Studios said it perfectly. They didn't see this as some tech gimmick. For them, it was a core storytelling tool. They literally used light as a character to help build the world and tell the story. And that created the kind of deep, immersive experience players were just starving for.
Okay, let's shift gears to the second part of the solution, because this one fixed a super frustrating problem that has plagued an entire genre for decades, making online play feel, well, just broken. If you've ever played a fighting game online, you know the #1 enemy: lag. A tiny delay can ruin an entire match. Well, BlazBlue Entropy Effect came out with a total game changer: AI-powered rollback netcode. It actually uses an AI trained on millions of real matches to predict what your opponent is going to do next.
And the way this works is just incredible. It's constantly analyzing the gameplay and predicting the next few frames with 98% accuracy. What that does is it basically solves the problem of distance. It almost completely wipes out lag, making a match against someone across the world feel as instant and responsive as if they were sitting right next to you on the couch. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote says it all. Daigo Umehara, one of the greatest fighting game legends of all time, called it a miracle. This tech didn't just make online play better, it completely changed what was possible for the entire global competitive scene.
So you put these two games together and they weren't just hits. Oh no, they were a shockwave. A shockwave that sent tremors through the entire industry and basically forced everyone to hit the reset button.
If you look at history, you can see that gaming moves in these cycles. We had the golden age of single-player games back in the 90s, then came the rise of multiplayer in the 2000s, and then the whole live service boom of the 2010s. The big question this all raises is, are we right now at the start of the decade of the single-player's big comeback?
And when you follow the money, well, the argument just becomes undeniable. The single-player model, which a lot of publishers had called too risky, suddenly proved to be wildly more profitable.
We're talking almost $200 million in profit for Blade Runner in 1 month, while some of these big live service games were losing over $100 million. It's just no contest.
And you better believe the big players noticed, and they moved fast. Sony just straight up canceled 3 of its big upcoming live service games. Xbox completely pivoted its Game Pass strategy to focus more on story-driven titles. And Nintendo, who, let's be honest, never really abandoned single-player games, was suddenly being called the king for just sticking to what they do best.
So what does this all mean for the future of gaming? Well, every single sign is pointing towards a renaissance, a massive and, frankly, really exciting return to the art of storytelling.
And look, this isn't just wishful thinking. The actual release schedule is packed. We are getting new games in these huge beloved single-player franchises like Fable, Elder Scrolls, and Ghost of Tsushima. The industry is finally putting its money where its mouth is.
The audience, the players, have sent a crystal clear message. They're done with being treated like a number on a spreadsheet. They want quality. They want stories that will stick with them. And maybe most importantly, they just want their time and their money to be respected.
You know, maybe the legendary creator Hideo Kojima really said it best. This quote gets right to the heart of this entire shift. After a decade focused almost entirely on how to make more money from players, the industry is being reminded that at their core, games are an art form. They're supposed to make us feel something. And it turns out that's what players wanted all along.